In today's video, a Democrat senator gets rejected by the president of El Salvador. And President Trump pulls a stunning move against the Democrats. And Judge Boasberg is now threatening to hold the Trump administration in criminal contempt for defying his court order.
So I asked the vice president if I could meet with Mr. Abrego Garcia. And he said, well, you need to make earlier provisions to go visit CCOT. I said, I'm not interested at this moment in taking a tour of CCOT. I just want to meet with Mr. Abrego Garcia. He said he was not able to make that happen. He said he needed a little more time. I asked him if I came back next week, whether I'd be able to see Mr. Abrego Garcia. He said he couldn't promise that either. So I asked him if I could get on the phone, either video phone or just a phone, and talk to Mr. Abrego Garcia, so I could just ask him how he's doing, so I could report back to his family. He said he could not arrange that. He said maybe if the American embassy were to ask, maybe that could happen. So I will certainly ask the American embassy to ask the government of El Salvador to connect us by phone. I asked him how about his family? How can he talk to his wife so that she can hear his voice? I let him know that the family has requested that. He said he was not sure whether he could make that happen.
In other words, kick rocks. That's exactly what El Salvador told that senator. The fact that they even allowed him to go down there and have to have this conversation with them is already enough. And guys, I don't really want to talk about this stuff, but the media won't let it go. And that's why politically they continue to lose to President Trump, because they were waiting for Democrats to get this desperate to pull what just happened today. So the mother of Rachel Morin, the American citizen who was murdered by an illegal immigrant, she was invited to the White House to make a statement. And at the same time, the White House press secretary released further information proving that Mr. Garcia is an MS-13 gang member, and he also was accused for beating up his wife.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia is an illegal alien, MS-13 gang member, and foreign terrorist who was deported back to his home country. And when Kilmar Abrego Garcia was originally arrested, he was wearing a sweatshirt with rolls of money covering the ears, mouth, and eyes of presidents on various currency denominations. This is a known MS-13 gang symbol of hear no evil, speak no evil, see no evil. Abrego Garcia was also arrested with two other well-known members of the vicious MS-13 gang. And two separate judges found that Abrego Garcia was a member of MS-13, and that finding has never been disputed. And just this morning, it was revealed through Maryland court documents that Abrego Garcia's wife petitioned for an order of protection against him for 2 instances of domestic violence in May of 2021. And here is the order right here. The court ordered that the respondent committed the following acts of abuse. Once in May of 2021, assault in any degree. And on May 4th of 2021, he punched and scratched his wife, ripped off her shirt, and grabbed and bruised her. This is from a court in Maryland. So not only are Democrats rushing to defend an illegal criminal foreign terrorist gang member, but also an apparent woman beater.
See, this is too risky for Democrats. You don't think the Trump administration were daring them to go down to El Salvador and make a fool of themselves? Of course they were. They waited this long to release further information on this guy. Now, the average American could care less about Mr. Garcia. He entered the country illegally. Get him out of here. Case closed. But for the people on TV, the Trump deranged media, they can't let it go. And like we say in basketball, you live or die by the 3. They're going to live or die by Trump politically because they just can't help themselves. Now, here is the mother of Rachel Morin and what she had to say to that senator.
Why are we not protecting the American citizens? It's just common sense. Why are we not protecting our children? And to have a senator from Maryland who didn't even acknowledge or barely acknowledged my daughter and the brutal death that she endured, leaving her 5 children without a mother and now a grandbaby without a grandmother, so that he can use my taxpayer money to fly to El Salvador to bring back someone that's not even an American citizen. Why does that person have more right than I do, or my daughter, or my grandchildren. I don't understand this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, that press briefing today was about 15 minutes. Definitely worth watching. I think you guys should check it out for yourself. You can watch it on X or on the YouTube channel for the White House. But the story that the mother tells is just heartbreaking. And it's just fascinating that in our current political climate, Democrats can't even bring it to themselves to even acknowledge her. Think about that for a second. And you know why? Because they're too busy focusing on the idea that President Trump is defying court orders. Take a look.
The question that I think we are getting to more and more immediately is what happens if and when there is a court decision that is pretty direct against what the Trump White House wants or what the president wants, and does he then say no directly instead of finding these so far legal ways?
Yeah. And listen, the president in the past has said he would follow court orders. I think at this point he is, he and his team are finding all sorts of loopholes to defy court orders. But this is also a president who finds all sorts of loopholes. Like he seems to suggest there's a loophole in whether or not he can run for a third term. And so I think it is likely that we will have a president who sees his power as something that should be expanded. That's what he's doing. He's going after Harvard. He's going after Columbia. He's a president who thinks he should have his hand in many areas, including, obviously, immigration, no matter what the court says.
So Democrats have a true dilemma on their hands. They have things that they want to be true and then things that are actually true. They want it to be true that President Trump is defying court orders. The problem is it's not true. And a loophole does not equal an individual defying court order. I guarantee the same people are screaming out loud about Trump defying court orders. They are taking advantage of loopholes personally and professionally. So they should knock it off. Now, this actually takes us to our next story because earlier, the federal judge, Boasberg, has now threatened the Trump administration with criminal contempt. He believes they did defy his order.
So the federal judge who first placed an injunction on the Trump administration's deportation flights now says he has found probable cause to hold the Trump administration in contempt for failing to return 2 planes deporting migrants last month. Senior correspondent Rich Edson is live. He's got the very latest on that developing story. Hi, Rich.
Hey, good afternoon, Sandra. Well, U.S. District Judge James Boasberg says he has given Trump administration officials ample opportunity to explain their actions and that their responses have been unsatisfactory. He writes in this order, quote, "The court ultimately determines that the government's actions on that day demonstrate a willful disregard for its order, sufficient for the court to conclude that probable cause exists to find the government in criminal contempt." This is all over the administration's failure to return planes that left for El Salvador full of alleged gang members in mid-March. Boasberg says if the Justice Department refuses to answer his next questions, he will refer the matter for prosecution.
Now, I believe I already said something of this nature before, and that is the judge has the authority to do what he's doing right now, okay? But the end result, will it matter? No. In fact, this is becoming politicized, in my own opinion. And I think this is a huge mistake for Democrats. If they're going to continue to support this type of action, it's not going to be good for them. And let me explain why that is. Because at the end of the day, the American public will see this as what? Democrats are attempting to turn violent gang members into victims. That's the way they're going to see it. And that's not going to work for them politically.
And so I just think Democrats have to be careful that you don't fight the fights that Donald Trump wants you to fight. Candidly, politically speaking, I still think they should be talking about tariffs, the economy. Donald Trump says he was going to lower prices every day because that's what impacts people when they go to the grocery store, when they go to buy things, when they think about buying a car, when they think about buying a home. This does not impact the average American on a daily basis. Doesn't mean it's not an important issue. Doesn't mean it's not an important legal issue. But again, I think the more Democrats take their eye off the economic ball, which Donald Trump has given them a huge opening on with these tariffs, I think it's more politically risky.
So then what happens is they get desperate. They start inviting more people onto the media to try to figure out who is going to support their narrative. Problem is every now and then they talk to the wrong Democrat, a Democrat who at least has some level of common sense. And that's Mayor Eric Adams, where he pushes back on Dana Bash when she tries to get him to agree that President Trump is defying court orders. Take a look.
Are you comfortable with the way in which they are rounding up and deporting people, especially in the case of what is going on right now with a federal judge ordering the Trump administration to facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and the administration is refusing?
Well, you know, one thing I'm clear on is that I'm not a hypocrite. I've been very clear on my policies, and if we look at the wording and the communications I stated Trump, President Trump being elected, it's the same. There's consistency. When you allow an open border and you allow anyone to come through, you have a $7.5 billion price tag on our cities. El Paso shouldn't be going through this. Chicago shouldn't be going through this. New York shouldn't be going through this.
Yeah.
I don't control immigration.
I hear you, and
issue.
you've been really clear on that it's a federal issue, but you're also
Yes.
a lifelong law enforcement official. You have to have an opinion, never mind the mayor of New York City.
Yes, and as a lifelong law enforcement person that from the 84 talked about public safety as a prerequisite to prosperity, I stay with that. Our federal government must deal with the immigration issue, and it should not be placed on cities. And the Constitution clearly lays out the federal government will handle immigration.
Yeah, you see, Eric Adams, he's not stupid, okay? And I wish more mayors would have the balls, frankly, to speak that way to the media, because ultimately it shouldn't fall on the mayor or the governor. Now, unless your name is Gavin Newsom, where you love illegal migrants more than you probably love the residents of your own state, then that probably is a different situation. But I just think it's funny that Dana Bash didn't get what she was looking for. And that kind of carries on to our next story here, where Gavin Newsom is now suing the Trump administration over tariffs. The only problem here is he has no standing to do so and claims that Trump is damaging his state. But let's remind him of the damage he's done. Take a look.
Today, I announced a lawsuit on behalf of the state of California suing the Trump administration. California is the largest manufacturing state in our union, one of the largest trading partners around the globe. No state will be impacted more than the state of California as it relates to the unilateral authority that's being asserted by the Trump administration to impose the largest tax increase in modern American history.
Again, when you have these people who are unhinged making statements like that, the only way to respond, folks, is with the facts. And here's one of them. California has no standing in this case, and I'm going to explain why. California must demonstrate that it has suffered a specific and tangible injury due to tariffs, which can be a complex legal hurdle given that Gavin Newsom's policies has already damaged California. I mean, we have the highest gas, the highest cost of living, the highest housing, and we're asking for $6.2 billion loans to pay for healthcare because illegal migrants have been drawn from it. I go on and on and on. Everything is expensive in California. So as far as damages are concerned, I think he's the one that should be suing himself. Now, in case you missed out on that story of him having to ask for more loans, take a look at this.
Governor Gavin Newsom says the state short on funds for its Medicaid program known as Medi-Cal. The state expanded the program to cover undocumented immigrants. The governor asked lawmakers to approve another $2.8 billion in loans on top of a $3.4 billion loan issued last week. So California now making up a $6.2 billion shortfall in Medi-Cal funds. The money meant to keep the program properly funded through June.
The realities are the realities. You have to balance budgets. We balance our budget. Revenue is holding up. I don't see anything significant along the lines of what some have asserted. But I do see the need to make adjustments and changes broadly in the Medicaid system.
Meantime, Republicans blaming Democrats for creating financial insecurity with the Medi-Cal program. They say undocumented people should not be covered.
And really, the bottom line is Gavin Newsom, instead of suing President Trump, should be more focused on cleaning up the streets. Because every time you see clips like these, it breaks your heart. Take a look.
Go, baby. Vas bien.
Keep going, you're good.
What, poop?
It's no secret by now that you're aware that the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, is facing prosecution from the DOJ after it has been alleged she committed mortgage fraud. Well, yesterday, she felt the need to explain herself when she started to scream in front of a crowd about stopping President Trump.
My mission is clear. I'm focused. I'm prepared. I'm ready. I've been trained by the best. I went to Howard University that overturned legal segregation in this country. I've been taught in those classrooms where Thurgood Marshall once taught. I'm not afraid of no president. Donald Trump, we're ready for you. We're coming for you. We're standing up for you. We're fighting on. We're not going down silent. Victory, my friends, is clear. It's now. And I'm not waiting 4 years. I'm waiting 2 until a speaker by the name of Hakeem Jeffries comes to bring us some rest. Come on, ladies. It's up to us. We saved this democracy before. We'll save it now. Let's go.
And Benny Johnson makes a good point. Letitia James is facing not one, but 2 massive career-ending criminal accusations. Number 1, falsely claiming a Virginia home as primary residence, which is mortgage fraud. And 2, living there while serving as New York AG. That's election fraud and disqualify her from serving as AG. In other words, she's done. And here's another story that just popped up. The IRS is now considering stripping tax-exempt status from Harvard University.
Harvard University. Tell us about the IRS now looking to rescind Harvard's tax-exempt status. I assume there needs to be some sort of process. They can't just do that willy-nilly, right?
The IRS can do this, Jake, and we are learning. Our team is reporting that the acting IRS director, who the president has just named, and of course his name is Gary Shapley. He's that whistleblower, if you will, from the Biden administration. He's the one who accused the Department of Justice of slow walking an investigation into Hunter Biden. But we are learning that the IRS is actively reviewing and inching toward a decision to revoke the tax-exempt status of Harvard University. That would be an extraordinary move. The experts that our colleagues have been speaking with this afternoon say that they can only remember one other time that this happened. It was back in the 1980s of one specific school. They say they violated the tax-exempt status by a political activity. Of course, this would be a slippery slope in terms of churches, in terms of religious universities and others. But the IRS, we are told, is actively considering and moving toward trying to revoke the Harvard tax-exempt status.
Now, of course, they will obviously label President Trump an authoritarian figure for this move. However, it's not illegal for the IRS to do this, just like it's not illegal for President Trump to freeze federal funds since he is the executor of the federal government. But again, you got to understand the narrative here, and you got to stay in the know, because if you just listen to mainstream media, they'd have you thinking that he's Hitler, and that's not the case here. Which brings me to the question of this video. Now that you've seen Rachel Warren's mother speak at the White House, and you got to see Senator Van Hellon in El Salvador make his case, what is your reaction to all this? Do you think the Democrats are making a huge mistake by going down this road and trying to turn violent criminals into victims? Let me know what you guys think about all that in the comment section below. Now, earlier we posted a video showing you how Democrats are now calling for violence. Yes, they want President Trump to be assassinated, and it's on video of them saying that. If you missed out on that video and stories from earlier today, all you have to do is click on it because it's coming up right now.